The news hit like a blizzard. President Trump, early 2025, announced sweeping tariffs on Canadian imports. Shockwaves rippled instantly across both nations. Canadian businesses froze, fearing for jobs and profits. U.S. importers braced for higher costs. Consumers would soon feel it too. The long-standing trade partnership suddenly felt fragile. The U.S.-Canada border, once a symbol of trust, now marked uncertainty. Headlines exploded. Why now? What next? Experts debated, citizens worried, and markets trembled. The president called it fairness. Many saw only mutual harm. Integrated supply chains, auto, agriculture, tech, were at risk. The era of predictable trade was over. For some, there was stunned silence. For others, immediate anger. The president's words set North America on a new, uncertain path. The relationship faced unprecedented strain. The chill was more than economic, it was personal. A new, colder era had begun. Canada wasted no time. Prime Minister Trudeau, resolute, called the tariffs unacceptable and vowed retaliation. "We will always defend Canadian workers and interests," he declared. Swift, dollar-for-dollar countermeasures were promised. Provincial leaders echoed Ottawa, forging rare national unity. From British Columbia to Quebec, premiers pledged support and condemned the U.S. move. The message: Canada would not be bullied. "These tariffs hurt both countries," one premier warned. The rhetoric was strong, signaling resolve. Canada, though smaller, was ready to fight back. Town halls buzzed with talk of sovereignty and respect. The tariffs felt like a betrayal of friendship. The government began preparing a list of U.S. goods for countermeasures, the focus items that would sting politically in key U.S. states. Canada's strategy was clear: respond with calculated force. The spirit of defiance was palpable. Canada would not absorb this blow quietly. British Columbia moved fast and bold. Premier David Eby announced targeted actions against U.S. interests. BC's control of key ports, vital for U.S. trade, especially Alaska, became leverage. New inspection fees and tighter regulations for U.S. vessels were proposed. An aggressive Buy BC campaign launched, aiming to cut U.S. imports. "Access to our infrastructure is a privilege, not a right," the premier warned. BC expedited Canadian projects while slowing those benefiting the U.S. The legislative package was comprehensive and strategic. Alaska felt the pressure immediately. The moves were risky. BC businesses also relied on cross-border trade, but the province felt compelled to show strength. The premier framed it as defending provincial sovereignty. The rest of Canada watched closely. BC's actions set a precedent for provincial involvement in trade disputes. The message: if the U.S. wanted hardball, BC was ready. The province's actions were carefully targeted. A new front in the trade conflict had opened. Inspired by BC, other provinces took action. Quebec strengthened cultural protection laws and eyed new tech regulations. Premier Legault spoke of economic patriotism. Alberta, energy-rich, considered measures affecting U.S. energy supplies. Ontario focused on supply chains, seeking alternative markets and preparing its own list of U.S. goods for action. Atlantic provinces, reliant on seafood exports, sought new markets abroad. Each province contributed uniquely, creating a patchwork of resistance. This decentralized approach made Canada's retaliation unpredictable. Provincial activism was unprecedented. Trade policy was usually federal. The severity of U.S. tariffs changed that. Premiers coordinated with Ottawa, but also acted independently. The result: a multi-layered, united Canadian response. The message to Washington was unmistakable. Canada was mobilized. The entire country was digging in for a long fight. The U.S. faced a complex, determined opponent. Retaliation was now a national project. The Canadian response hit the U.S. hard. Alaska felt it first. Dependent on BC's ports, Alaska faced rising costs and disrupted supply chains. The governor pleaded for a quick resolution. Other U.S. border states grew anxious about their economies. Senators from agricultural states saw export markets threatened. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce warned, "Tariffs are taxes, and Americans would pay." Confidence in a quick U.S. victory faded. Industries caught in the crossfire. Shipping, tourism, manufacturing faced chaos. Summer travel plans stalled. Farmers and manufacturers worried about lost markets. The economic risks grew clearer daily. Some in Trump's own party grew nervous. Canada's resolve, especially at the provincial level, surprised many. U.S. industries began lobbying for de-escalation. The pain of tariffs was biting on both sides. The call for a return to stable trade grew louder. Tensions escalated week by week. President Trump doubled down, threatening more tariffs and accusing Canada of unfairness. Canadian leaders stood firm, refusing to back down. The threat of a full-blown trade war loomed. Behind the scenes, diplomatic channels stayed open. Barely. Quiet talks continued as business leaders urged caution. Both economies were too intertwined for a true winner. The risk of recession and millions of lost jobs was real. Neither side wanted to appear weak. Political stakes were high. Finding a way out required statesmanship, not just brinkmanship. The world watched nervously. If these allies couldn't resolve this, what hope for others? Even the closest partnerships can be tested. The challenge: pull back from the brink before lasting damage was done. The air was thick with unspoken anxieties. The events of early 2025 delivered a clear lesson. The US and Canada are more than neighbors. Their prosperity is shared. A trade war threatened to unravel decades of cooperation. The real cost was felt by workers, farmers, and families on both sides. Tariffs brought hardship and uncertainty. Leaders had to weigh these human costs. The only path forward was dialogue and compromise. Both nations needed to rediscover shared interests and use existing agreements to resolve disputes. Diplomacy, not confrontation, was the answer. The future depended on a stable partnership. This showdown was a painful reminder of how quickly things can escalate, but it also showed the deep desire for normalcy. The bridge of friendship, though tested, had to be rebuilt.